Hi everybody, welcome to another Talk Photography. I'm Mark Cleghorn and welcome to the Photographer Academy. For almost 15 years now, we've been talking to photographers throughout the world, and they've been called different things, but under the Talk Photography umbrella, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to be listening to and seeing some amazing images from different photographers around the world. And you can catch up with them via the Photographer Academy. You can always watch the first 20 minutes for free of charge, or you can actually go over to the YouTube channel, watch the full session there. But of course, we do have to censor some of the images for YouTube. As a member, you basically get to see it all uncensored as such, no matter what kind of talk photography. So if you're new to the Talk Photography, this is the front page. Pretty much the banner remains the same. You can click on the banner from the front page and this will go to the Join Now page, and you can join for as little as 33 quid for 3 months, up to £100 for a year. In addition to the likes of all the legacy content that we have created by myself, we've also got the Masters and the Talk Photography as well. We release Photoshop School each week, and let's not forget there's all other assets there, visual posing guides in the form of apps. We've also got assets for Photoshop like brushes and actions, presets and so on, and we've got some new ebooks coming this year as well with it. So it's a lot more than just the streaming video. And remember, as a member as well, you get to actually download all of the content as well for free. And so yeah, that's why you should join the Photographer Academy. But enough about that, let's get back today. And today I'm going to be joined by Rob Ronaldson, a British photographer. Rob, are you there?
I am here.
Excellent. Guys, we're not running webcams today, just because Rob just doesn't have one, but we'll still have the same chat. Yeah. Not a problem. Rob, first of all, thanks. I'm a fan of your work. That's obviously why I got in touch. I know you thought, why have you got in touch with me? But I'm really excited. And this is your first chat about your photography, is it not?
It's my first, my first webinar.
Wow.
At least. So
I promise I won't bite.
Okay, thank you.
Rob, before we get going and seeing 8 of your images, how did your photography journey begin for you? Where did it evolve from in the beginning?
I suppose I'd always been attracted to. I suppose I was always a frustrated photographer. I started initially copying magazines with, pencil magazine covers with pencil and paper.
Yeah.
And I did that. And then my family had a compact camera, and I was using that, when I was like 20, and I was just getting through tons of film, and I was just photographing anything. It was just like an Olympus strip.
Yeah.
Fixed. I think it was fixed 40 mil or something like that. Yeah. And
that was my first camera.
Yeah.
And it was mine.
Was it? It was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I took loads of images, and obviously it was very limited what you could do with it. I had tried when I was about 13. I remember my parents bought me this Kodak Instamatic, and it was even more limited.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to do so many things, and I couldn't do anything with it, and then I got a OM10 in 1983, which shows my vintage. And I suppose I've started graduating towards photographing women from about 86, I suppose. It was like a gradual process where everything else got slowly neglected to the point where I solely photograph women. If there's not a woman in front of everything, then something's going wrong. I'm not going to do anything with that image anyway, so why take it? So it's just a progress from there. I am an amateur. I don't do this professionally. I've photographed a few weddings professionally, But that's about it, really. I've kind of got a very amateur ethos now, in that I've seen the way that people who want to photograph women, naked women, when they try to monetize it, it corrupts them a little bit.
Yeah.
And also, I really value that relationship with my models. And if they sense there's an exploitative relationship going on, that can kill that collaborative vibe that I'm aiming for.
You call your purple port aesthetic nude.
I did, yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
I did. I'll explain that. I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
And I was I basically have got a degree in chemistry and geology, but I ended up teaching mathematics. And it was, I mean, we've become more censorious as a society. So, if we go back to, in some ways we haven't, but in some ways we certainly have. And it became impossible to. You saw what happened under the Blair Brown government, where they were getting more and more into what teachers were doing in their private life, and you more or less had to protect yourself. So there was a point where I realized I could no longer be under my real name.
Wow.
So basically, I'd always felt that while I might be quite erotic, to me, my work's always about proportion. It's about leg length. So I adopted that because it was a way of being anonymous.
Do you find that frustrating?
Yeah, I did. I did.
It is a narrow line, isn't it?
Yeah,
and the world of nude photography, full stop. It doesn't matter if you're a professional photographer, an amateur photographer, whether you're a teacher, a candlestick maker. It doesn't matter. The line is thin, isn't it? What the kind of the people of the world think of people who take nude images. I mean, it doesn't matter, isn't it? And we're luckier, I suppose, in the UK and Europe than we are if you kind of speak to some of the American colleagues and things, believe it or not.
Really, yeah, I know. I can imagine. I mean, some people talk about doing fine art nude in United States, and it's always scared the living daylights out of me, that the possibility that someone could turn up with a gun and object to what you're doing is so much worse than what would happen to you in the Lake District. So
before we start to actually look at the images, when you talk about the aesthetic nude as such, is there an artistic goal or an emotional goal there that you're looking at?
Yeah, okay. Well, I kind of say it's sort of a manifesto, in that it's seeing women as part of nature.
Yeah.
The images that we're going to be looking at today, and it's that idea that she's free, she's powerful, she's in control, she's happy. These are all part of the principle of what I'm doing there.
Okay.
The proportion, and the idea is that there is, to a certain extent, the observer could be a rock or an otter. It's not. There's no interaction going on in this stuff, because then she's not a subject. She's not being objectified, if you follow what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as I say, it's about that Vitruvian. Leonardo's Vitruvian Man.
Yep.
Well, the ancient Greeks believed that humans were supposed to be 8 heads high, and the torso is 2 heads high, the neck is half a head, the pubis is half a head, the thigh is 2 heads long, and the lower leg is two heads long. and it's all about that proportion of having the torso and the thigh looking the same length, at least the same length. The issue I've got is where, to me, it always looks wrong if the thigh looks short. So I've got an obsession with foreshortening. Um,
Wow.
if that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always really, really paranoid that I'm foreshortening the thigh. So the thigh has to be at least as long as the torso, and if it can look longer, then great, I'll go with that.
Does that make it very hard for you to select models then?
No, because it's about your angle that you shoot from.
Okay.
Because I shoot film and I shoot my digital that you're going to be looking at today alongside it. Because my camera is an RB67.
Yep.
The waist level finder is very convenient to put the camera back in the rucksack when you're moving on. So the waist level finder stays on all the time. So it tends to make you see the world from a lower angle.
Yep.
So what's great about that is that you're already making the legs longer by doing that.
So when did you get into shooting 6.7 then?
Well, I bought a Bronica. I bought basically a Bronica Zenza that didn't even have a waist level finder. I bought it from Jessop's in Tottenham Court Road in 1986.
Okay.
And I was, because I was desperate to move up. I had an OM2, and I really wanted to try medium format, and I didn't even have a hand crank on this thing. And I built that up into a system, but I still craved. I wanted to go bigger than that. So there was a big debate: do I go for a Bronica GS, or do I go for the RB67? But eventually, in 1999, I bought the RB67. And yeah, I was shooting 6.7 for a while. I now predominantly shoot 6.8 with the motor packs.
Okay.
So in my kit bag, I'll have 4. And then everything that I shoot on there is meant to be duplicated on digital. So there's stuff that I will shoot on digital, but not shoot on film. But everything I shoot on film will be duplicated on digital. There's a reason for that, because I'm working time for print. I have to supply my models with images, and the whole nature of having to develop and having to scan and all of that to try and keep up with what I'm meant to give them. It's much easier to just give them digital files. So the film has its own time scale.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Reverse the Fall of Man. What's that all about?
Ah, right. Okay. Well, again, what I've been talking to you about. It's so the idea of the fall of man is when Adam and Eve are thrown out of Eden. So the ethos there is to try to. It's supposedly a glorious Eden. Probably a pagan Eden, not a not a Judeo-Christian Eden, but it's kind of the idea is that these beautiful naked women could be back in Eden, back in this primordial wonderland. I think you can see in that image there, you get that idea that she's and you can see the leg proportion there as well.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about this image then. It's obviously our first image. We can see what you're on about already, shooting lower to actually extend and things. So you talk us through your, if this was the only image that you could ever show us.
Okay.
What's the ethos? What's the symbolization? What's the story of the storytelling? What's the influences? What's everything?
Oh, right. Well, if you want to start with influences, there was in 1986, there was a book published called The Naked Yeah, Naked Landscape by John Swanell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally got a copy, but it was all in the photographic press at the time, and it was very expensive when it came out, and I got to leaf through it because I didn't have a particularly good job. I had a mortgage, and it was the sort of thing that you would just go and look at it in Waterstones or something like that. You go and thumb through it, and it was just inspirational, the combination of landscape and female nudity. So I've been kind of inspired by that. I would say that my stuff is more utopic. What I mean by that is that I like the conditions to look, like it's nearly always sunny in my pictures.
Okay.
So it's kind of happy and upbeat in that respect. So what's going on here? I mean, that's talking about this image in particular. This image involved camping in us camping together in my camper van when it was on the road, and we basically got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to take this image. I won't say too much about where it's taken. I think people will know where it's taken, but the fact that it's theoretically private land.
Okay, leave it there.
Yeah, leave it there. But yeah, so we've got that canyon faces northeast, so the only way that we're going to get sun on the rock and the waterfall behind it is basically the sun comes up over the trees. You've got about 15 minutes to get this shot. If there's a tiny cloud just sitting above the trees, that's it. You've had it. You get 15 minutes on the 21st of June. Either side of that, the amount of time you get diminishes. So I think it's like not possible to do the shoot by let's say July the 10th is probably not going to happen, and and 20 odd days before the solstice you're not going to get it either. So it's a real gamble going out there. Yeah. So you're looking at the Met Office website to see if you can see any cloud on their cloud protection, because any cloud at all could completely scupper your shoot. I just want that absolute, I just like the idea that she's part of nature, she belongs in nature, she's happy in nature. I think there's, clearly it's inspired by Western European concepts of aesthetics, because again, we've got the pointed toe, so there's ballet coming in to a certain extent, in our aesthetics.
And is this a model that you've used quite a lot, or is
yeah? I mean, I've shot with her. This shot was taken in 18, and shortly after we did Spain together. She's basically been in and out of doing nude for the last 3 years. She's been on and off of Purple Port, the modeling website.
Yeah.
She doesn't do nude anymore, which is a shame, because she's just literally amazing. The proportions are incredible. But yeah, no, I've shot. I have tried to shoot with her quite a bit. We did the last time I shot with her. I ran a 1-to-1 tuition with a guy, and there was another model who's not entirely dissimilar, and they're friends. And we booked both of those for that session. So that was the last time I shot with her. I think
Very
that's
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
So as far as the what's your favorite kind of so for the digital, because we're looking at digital today,
Yeah.
what kind of lens do you opt for? What's your working aperture? You know, how does it all fit for you?
Okay, right. So basically, in 18, I bought a Sony Alpha 99 Mark II, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, because I mean my roots are there. And my first proper digital camera that I could take outside and use was a Nikon D70.
Yep.
I went from a Nikon D70 to a Nikon D200. And then Nikon stalled. They kept, when they went full frame, the camera they were trying to sell us was 12 megapixel. And I had this idea that you needed at least 17 megapixel if you were ever going to do A3 at 300 dots per inch. So I had it in my head that 17 megapixels was like a standard. Let's say, if you understand what I mean, was really what I was looking for. And Sony came out with the Alpha 900. And so I jumped ship. And then, of course, they started to meddle. They went away from a DSLR more or less immediately. They started to go into this SLT technology. And for a while, I was kind of resistant to that because I can be a bit dinosaurian sometimes. I'm not always ready to embrace new stuff. I think I'm getting better now. Actually, bizarrely, I'm getting better now. But I kind of thought, oh no, that's not for me. So I was already regretting it. And then I kind of bought a Nex, a little Nex 6, and I just fell in love with the EVF. I just thought, wow, this is actually really good. So that I kind of upgraded from a Alpha 850 to an Alpha 99 Mark II. And of course, the problem with that was they then abandoned that whole lens mount, didn't they, on me? So I've been stuck there for a while. But okay, so going back to this. So for a while, I mean, that picture there would have been taken on an 850 with a Minolta 24 to 105, which is not the best lens in the world. I'm going to be honest with you. But most lenses have a sweet spot around about f8. So if you stop down to f8, they tend to you can spend a lot of money on a lens, and round about f8, it's a very equalizing aperture, isn't it? The quality, you're getting rid of all the aberrations, and it's before the diffraction starts to kick off.
It's known as the average aperture, isn't it?
Yeah. So f8's good because of the nature of digital sensors, because of the sheer resolution that they have. You would start to pick up the degradation from diffraction at smaller apertures than an f8. So I tend to shoot with f8. On my current kit is the Sigma Art 24 to 105. And I tend to use that because if I'm shooting alongside film, I don't really want to be changing two sets of lenses for every picture.
Yeah.
So I do tend to use a zoom because I don't have that option with an RB67, not properly really. So it's just easier for me to just duplicate, the feel of that image with a zoom lens, having set everything up first of all with the RB67.
Okay, thanks for that. You talk about erosion of sculpted rocks and natural textures. I suppose we couldn't be on a better image to actually kind of start to talk about that and things, really.
I would actually suggest that maybe this is probably the worst one.
Well, it's got rocks.
Yeah, it's got rocks. You can see, if you see to the left of I've just actually bizarrely, this picture was taken in 15,
Yeah.
and the model here, who models under the name of, hang on, I have to ring a bell, I have to remember what she's modeling under. Artesian dance or something. I'll come back to you with that in a minute. I'll probably have to look it up.
Yeah.
But I've just been talking to her today, so we've just actually booked 2 days in Devon. So she had the best physique I've ever seen. I mean, just the sheer amount of muscle, and yet she's still very feminine. Absolutely phenomenal model. But she was a ballet teacher, and she was also a yoga teacher, and the combination is just, incredibly powerful.
You were beginning to say about on the left-hand side something about the rocks.
Yeah, on the left-hand side, that's a natural crack. So that's I've got a degree in geology. I'm going to apologise now. So you can see the cut face, which is on the right.
Yeah.
So this is a active marble quarry in Spain. Basically, the Spanish don't do any work on a Sunday ever. So you just go in there on a Sunday, and even if it's active, and they don't bother with much security at all, any security at all. So you can just walk in there and just shoot. So yeah, there's a natural surface on the left. Every other surface there is been cut by a chainsaw. This big mechanical device they use to cut the blocks out. So I would actually argue this is kind of the built environment, but it's probably my one vice where I'm breaking away from my true ethos here. I do like marble quarries. I must admit I like marble quarries.
And obviously, if you're going to shoot in Spain and you're going to shoot on a Sunday or anywhere in Spain, you're going to get sun the majority of the time.
Yeah. Well, that's what
some harsh light. Yeah.
That's why. I mean, I deliberately go for that. I like it. I like and again, I hear stories about models tell me, oh well, the photographer cancelled the shoot because it was too sunny today, and I think because I'm not, the ethos of what I'm doing in this particular style of photography, you don't really want eye contact because that makes the model subject, right? And it objectifies her, right? So I don't want eye contact anyway, and that basically frees you up. So it's all a question of you position the model so that the sun, usually she has to, first of all, psychologically she has to face the sun. If she faces away from the sun, it has a dystopic meaning. Facing towards the sun always looks more hopeful. But of course they have to close their eyes because otherwise they squint. So you kind of push the sun into the face, which is okay for the few minutes that they're being photographed. But it fills in the shadows, and I don't think the light falling on her is harsh. You can see the light is harsh, but it's a question of how you position them. So it's flattering, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm a fan of sunlight. Don't get enough in Wales, so
yeah.
And like you're saying, anytime anybody complains about sun, I'm not going to listen to them because they haven't lived a life of cloud.
Yeah.
And as much as it's nice to have some soft light and things, it's really great to have some accent light kind of coming through the thing.
Yeah, that's right. I agree.
Very. I suppose if we were to flip this into black and white now, and we kind of move in front of the cut stone, as it were, we'd really be looking at a sculpture, wouldn't we? She would become very much like she's on a plinth because of
Yeah,
the lighting in a museum, it kind of have that
yeah, yeah.
quality.
I think because I'm, because when I'm on location, I'm shooting film and I'm shooting monochrome. I'm shooting largely Ilford FP4 plus.
Okay.
I've tried dabbling with Pan F as well recently, but I like my FP4. And in this situation with a blue sky, I would by and large use a red orange filter. And it does give you that. I mean, actually, that sky is so dark there that with a red orange filter, it goes black, which is probably a little bit over the top. Um, I'm still learning, even after all these years of doing it. But yeah, no, I think what you're actually seeing here is bycatch. I'm shooting film in black and white. That's the look I'm going for.
Yeah.
I tend not to what I call color strip, which is do a black and white conversion in digital, because the idea is that you didn't shoot it in monochrome, you shot it in color. So there's a feeling that it's almost dishonest to then claim you're a black and white worker if you shot it in color and then in Photoshop you make it black and white. Occasionally you'll have an image where you can't save the color. The colors are too difficult to edit.
Yeah.
And then you might flip it into black and white. I think if you by and large go out to take color digital and you turn them into black and white, the Photoshop it required is minimal compared with having to balance the colors. I'm really particular. I don't want her body to change color as it goes up. So I will do a lot of balancing, especially when you're shooting in the sun. You're shooting in Spain. There'll be parts of the body that go very red.
I think for many
Yeah,
photographers, if they're learning, if they want to kind of dabble and see what it is the world is like in black and white,
yeah,
I mean, on pretty much all my courses that I used to run, I get them to actually set their camera image into black and white. So even if they're shooting
yeah.
raw,
Okay, yeah,
even if they're
yeah. I
shooting
mean,
raw, they're actually going to see a black and white image, and then they can actually see the difference. In fact, because a lot of photographers don't have the
yeah,
experience of monochrome except when they flip it in Photoshop or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Lightroom
yeah.
with it,
No,
and shooting and seeing monochrome
yeah.
is a different thing to actually turn in a color image. I agree with you on that.
I I think yeah, because often when I do it, when I'm kind of feel I'm forced to do it because it just doesn't look right in color. Um, what I sometimes do is I might go for orthochromatic look where I'm not using the red channel, where I maybe got in the green channel I'm looking at about, let's say, 70% and 30% blue,
hmm
and that has a particular look. And then you might do what I'm basically doing when I'm shooting black and white film. I might go the opposite direction, and then you're looking where you've got most of your information. Most of the information you've got is in the red channel, so you might be looking at 70% red, 30% green. And they have totally different looks.
Yeah.
As you well know.
Very cool. Right,
Yeah.
let's move on to our next image, shall we?
Yeah. Okay. Looking at that. No, I wanted to. This is on Lanzarote, and I've got I've always wanted to shoot on black sand beaches. I'm finding ones that are kind of, let's say, pure enough to do it. How this works well is that the model in case, she's got a beautiful complementary skin tone, and it works well because I can actually render her lighter than than the sand. That's been taken on Sony Zeiss 135 f1.8 wide open.
Okay.
I can't render the same way. I can't do that in black and white. You know, I can't get that shallow depth of field on medium format because there's no lens that's got quite that small depth of field on, because medium format lenses tend to be quite limited aperture.
Yeah.
You know, and they would need to be, I suppose you could argue wide open at f3.5 would be about the same, but then having that same focal length, they tend to come in at 5.6. So I couldn't match that with film. So it's a totally different thing. What I've done there is I've gone for that look because I put the film away because the light wasn't pure enough. I'm getting quite a lot of diffusion coming through. The 1 week I spent in Lanzarote, we saw blue sky on maybe about 9 hours of blue sky. So there for a whole week with about 9 hours of blue sky. All the rest of the time it was just, you'd like look up and it just looked like the inside of a white frosted dome, you know. So while you got some stuff that looked like sunlight, it was about half a stop down and very, very diffused. So it works really well. I think that image.
It's beautiful. I'm loving the color. You know, I do see the world in monochrome. I'm not sure if you know. But basically, yeah, I am a monochrome photographer. That's it.
Yeah, okay.
My fellowship was in black and white.
Yeah.
And so on with it. But you know, when you see the skin tone against the black here, you know, you know that you should see a little bit of the world in color.
Yeah,
because I mean, I had I used to shoot with a Pentax 6.7 as well.
Oh yeah.
So I used to, in the good old days of the commercial photography, obviously pretty much everything, you know, up to 5.4. But whereas the RB and the RZ we used to use for commercial pack shots, rarely did we use it for people. In fact, we would have used the Hasselblad for that, and we shot then the more fashion stuff on the Pentax 6.7. And the Pentax 6.7, we had I think it was a 300mm lens, which was f4.
Oh, f4. I've actually weirdly, I went and bought. There's been times in my life where I've been flush, and I went out and bought a Pentax 6.7. What I couldn't get round was the fact that when I'm shooting film, I'll get through rolls. I'll do a shoot.
Yeah.
I'll do a shoot. Be on a beach or waterfall. I might come away with 12 rolls.
Yeah.
And the problem with the Pentax 6.7 is that you just can't load it fast enough.
It's dangerous.
Well, you can't load it fast enough. I just can't load it. I can't load it fast enough. So with the RB, you've got your 4 backs loaded. You get 36 shots, and then you have a break. You have a break, dear. All right. And I go off and I reload my 4 backs. And I've got 36 shots then in my little black plastic film holder, you know. And then I'm ready to go again.
I think the one thing that film does, in fact, it slows you down anyway. I know that, and you basically have a shot count going in your head.
You do.
And I don't think any digital photographer I've ever met has ever had a shot count. Saying that, Andy Rouse, the wildlife photographer, he used to talk about. Because he had the camera, there was a famous elephant shot that he did near a waterhole where the elephant heard the camera, and basically it was throwing mud at it, and he won a massive award for it. But he was saying he was on countdown 1, so in other words, it was his last shot or something like that.
Oh wow!
And he was having to count down his images because obviously as you're taking the shot, and this is before, you know, kind of camera to Wi-Fi kind of communication was really accessible on location and things, really. But yeah, you know, and the one thing I think being a film photographer, it teaches you is patience and frustration, and how to, and we used to talk about, in fact, the first shot and the last shot of a roll of film were often the best shots.
Yeah, you often find you've nailed it, because what what I try to do, I try to have the discipline to say on when I'm shooting film, I'll say I've got three. I'll take 3 shots of one pose, and the other 2 are insurance. So the first one is the one where you're supposed to nail it, and then your next 2 shots are just to make sure that you've got something. So I will try, because I get 9 shots on a roll. I will try to do 3 poses, but often it'll be 2 poses. If it's difficult, you might end up shooting a whole roll of it. If you think that she's got to go up onto a toe and you've got to catch it at the moment when she hits the top, then you might repeat that 9 times. With the RB, what's interesting, how it slows me down, and why it's not. What you might say, well, that's not relevant. We're talking about digital. It is relevant because what I do is I basically got a Manfrotto head, and I basically clip the Sony. I unclip my RB67 and I clip my Sony in. So I'm taking it from the same position.
Yeah.
And it's all about tripod. When you pre-visualize a shot, you know yourself. You've got this idea. You think, well, I'm going to use a 50 mil, whatever. You kind of have that sense. By and large, I can turn up somewhere and I'll know, oh, well, that's a 90 mil on the RB, and then that more or less equates to about 40 mil on my digital. But it's all about where you can put your tripod. So you have to slow down to think about your tripod position. What I think is beautiful about using a tripod is that it's the precision, because you're no longer worried about falling over, which is always a problem when you're handheld. Is that I think a lot of people that handheld don't use a tripod, they don't actually. The amount of effort that goes into not falling over while you're trying to be in, they probably just don't even, they've internalized it. They don't realize that that's actually happening. That's gone. And it's just the image. Once you're in the right place, you can, you kind of see more in 3 dimensions through the viewfinder than you would if you were handheld. With handheld, everything's moving. As I said, you have to worry about your position as well. When you're on a tripod, none of that matters. All of that's been eliminated. All you can do is the model fitting in the frame? What's the relationship with the back of it? And of course, then what you're seeing is I'm then replicating that on digital. I have an angle finder. One of these right angle finders, which you look down into. So if I'm using a waist level finder, I've got my Sony with an angle finder on it. And so I'm still shooting from down there. Basically, I find that when you're handheld, there's certain heights that are comfortable to shoot from. Standing up with your legs apart, right? Then then there'll be kneeling. Then they'll be sitting, and with I've got heavily customized Mark II Bembos that I actually camouflage and I've worked on, and I can put them more or less at any height. One
that is like a spider and falls apart at a touch.
Well,
I'm teasing. I could never get on with one. I'm teasing.
Well, I'm gonna say that my one has a 4th leg. So if I'm this, so I've got it engineered. I actually engineer my own center columns now. Well, I've got a guy that makes components for me to my spec, and I've got basically I can screw in a cheap Chinese telescopic leg into the center column. So, I mean, a Bembo's great until about You know, Bembo Mark II, which has got the really long legs. It's great until about 2'6", maybe 2 foot. Then it starts to become a bit unstable. So I used to prop rocks underneath it if I wanted to go a certain height. But now I've got this extra leg that I can screw into the center column, and it gives it a bit of rigidity. And I shoot 5.4 with it as well, you know, so it works. Yeah.
Very good.
But
I think we could stay on kit for a long time, couldn't we?
We could.
Let's look at the next image. So again, similar girl, same girl, similar location.
Oh no, different girl. This
Okay.
This beautiful young lady is a Belgian national. Her parents are both Senegalese. The lady before is a French national, and her parents were, you know, French West Indian. So different skin tone, much darker. I've worked with this lady a lot. I mean, her leg length, her proportions, facial beauty, and she's just a really, really lovely girl. Absolutely fantastic person. So this is on Fuerteventura. I discovered this location. I was about to catch we were waiting for the plane back in 19, and I got talking to somebody in the queue, and she said, "Oh, there's this abandoned village," and she told me where it was. I'm not going to pass that on at this moment. And I went and explored, and I mean, to me, I'm not somebody that wants to shoot in ruined houses. It's a bit too urbex for me, and I prefer a more natural environment. Clearly, again, this is built environment, but it has a naturalistic feel to it. And what it is a water system, and there's steps going down into the cistern. So I suppose, you know, it's probably 100 years old. Probably been patched up. It would have been when farming was more important economically, and they're basically collecting rainwater during you know, flash floods. It's a beautiful place. I've shot that location. It's one of the locations that looks as good overcast as it does in full sun. I'm trying not to talk about equipment.
It's okay.
But that's taken on a GFX, by the way.
Let's talk about
GFX.
Let's talk about working with models.
Yeah.
And kind of, you know, obviously you're working with a lot of models often, or the same model.
Yeah. Well, I want to. I think you become friends, and you've got like I like the collaborative process. I try to make it so it never costs them anything to work with me. I prefer not to pay them. That's not because I'm stingy. It's because I've actually worked with one model on one occasion, and I paid her because it was back in the day, and it was back before there were national websites where you could get together and talk to people. And I had a very primitive website, but wasn't primitive back then. And I basically was pitching to work with girls in the Northeast. Anyone that wanted to model in the Northeast, they could come to my website. And at one point, I was, you know, if you put modeling Northeast, I'd be in like the first 3 on Google. Right. So I used to get a lot of models in the, you know, County Durham, you know, Newcastle, Tyne-and-Wear. I would get a lot of models from there. And if I went a bit further afield, I didn't know anyone down there. So I'm right on the South Yorkshire coast. Well, not South. I know there isn't a South Yorkshire coast. It's East Yorkshire, East Riding. So I'm down there, and I paid someone to come up from Hull, and she turned up hungover, late, right, and it wasn't a particularly positive experience. But the following year, she actually asked if she could work with me time for print, and she came back and she was on time. She wasn't hungover. She really cared, you know. And I think from then on, I just thought, what's the point in paying them? Because if they're looking at the watch, you know, if they're just there for the money, you get a different. I'm not saying that this is all of them. I'm just saying that you know, there are a professional elite that will always give their best. I know that, right? But I'm saying that there's quite a lot of models who, if you engage them and they're there because they want to do it, because they want those images, because they love those images, they're going to give more than if you paid them.
How do you
Yeah.
build trust with a new model when you're working with them for the first time, especially when you're working in outdoor locations? You know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, now that I've got like a 2-room home studio, I am trying to have a home shoot first, if possible, because it can be a bit nerve-wracking. It depends on what their history is, what their experience is. Okay, so I think the first thing I'm going to say is that initially I won't look at them. I don't look at them. If they've taken their clothes off, I do not look at them. And if I have to look at them, then I'll look them in the eye, right? And you never ever look at their body. You're allowed to look at their body through the viewfinder, obviously, because you've got to frame the shot, but you never do it. You never do it initially until they've started to, you know, because they need to be shown. You need to show them that that's your motivation. Your motivation is the image, and not seeing them naked.
Cool.
And you can get that across quite quickly.
What are you looking for when you're putting a casting out there, or you're looking to collaborate with a model? What are you looking for?
Well, primarily, I've started to shoot models with tattoos now, but for a long time, my chief criteria, and it still is my chief criteria for the genre that we're looking at now, is I'm looking for no tattoos or invisible or ones that you can't see.
Yeah.
Because I'm shooting analog as well, and I would like to have a purely analog route. You know, I would like to be able to make a print that still had that Garden of Eden ethos.
Yeah.
Obviously, the latest idea that I've been having, where I've been last couple of seasons, I'll call them seasons, I've started to shoot heavily tattooed models. What I'm trying to do is avoid models that are in between. So I'm kind of looking for the ones that are absolutely extremely heavily tattooed, and ones where they're basically not tattooed. So that's the chief criteria. Second criteria, what I like about this model is called Pixie, and I work with her a hell of a lot. What I love about her body is how slim she is. She actually looks like she could be a hunter-gatherer. She looks like she could live in those places, you know, in this like antediluvian wonderland where she catches her own fish, and it kind of gives it that natural look. I feel anyway. But yeah, so it's finding that. I also want to screen out anybody that's kind of, I'll say, doing it for the wrong reasons, but by working time for print, you've already narrowed them down anyway, because a lot of the ones that I want to avoid will want to be paid. And it's not because they want to be paid that I want to avoid them. It's because they may be, how can I put it? They're not, they're not sharing my ethos.
Mm-hmm.
I think in order to want to work time for print, they get it. They look at my images and they get it. They even if they can't intellectualize about it, they understand that they want to look like that.
Cool.
So I'm always screening to make sure that they understand this is what I'm doing, and do you really want to do this?
We've seen images that were out in sunny climates, but obviously you shoot a lot in England as well, in the Cotswolds.
No, Lake District. I don't do
Lake
the Cotswolds.
District. Sorry.
I've never shot in the Cotswolds.
Sorry, my mistake.
No, it's okay.
This kind of image, at home or abroad?
Oh, well, this one here.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Lake District.
Okay.
I mean, the whole thing is that when I go to Almeria, I go to Fuerteventura. What they have in common is that the nearest things to deserts you're going to find.
Yeah.
In Europe, actually, the only desert in Europe is in Almeria province. It's something called a Tabernas Desert. So when I'm in Spain, I'm shooting in incredibly arid environments. In Britain, I've got this thing about waterfalls, so there's a complete contrast. I'm looking for a sunny day, as you can see there.
Yep.
But you can also see the neutral density there as well, can't you? I'm using a neutral density filter there, obviously, because you can see the shutter speed has got to be about 15th of a second from the way the water is. Yeah, so I love that contrast between shooting in the desert and shooting in the wettest part of England, Lake District. That's Pixie again.
Yep.
That's Lanzarote. That's the famous location. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it doesn't matter. It's been a bit thrashed to death recently on the modelling site that I'm on. I keep seeing images. Everyone goes to Lanzarote. They go to this place, and I've shot there about 3 times on my one trip, and you start to go, oh, I know that bit. You'll see a picture by somebody else, and you'll recognize a section that you've been to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Does that take the edge off it because everybody else is photographing in the similar kind of locations?
I think it does, but I would like to think, yeah, I mean, I'm paranoid about my locations. I try not to give information away about them because a lot of the ones in England, I've scouted them, I've found them, no one's given them to me. I've used my, doing a degree in geology, I had to do a lot of map work.
Yeah.
So I will be looking at Ordnance Survey. I'll be thinking, that channel is facing south. Then you're on Google Earth and you're looking to see if there's any white patches in the stream, and that'll be a waterfall. And then you'll say, well, that faces slightly, that's slightly east, so that'll be about 12 o'clock. If it's slightly west to south, that'll be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And there's like a time, and you have to go and scout it. So I do try to restrict it, but I think to a certain extent, because I embrace that full sun, and a lot of people avoid it, I feel that I probably do something differently to most people. I think
you revisit the locations with different models as well.
Yeah, I do, because the thing is with it, the problem is there's so many models, and there's only, finding new locations. I think when you shoot with somebody and they've come to you, and you might only get one opportunity with them. You don't know that you're not going to get multiple opportunities with them at that stage.
Yeah.
You have to deliver the goods, because it's like they're your client, Yeah. And so what you tend to do is you'll go, well, you can sit on that rock, face that way, right? And you know where to take it from. And the beauty of waterfalls is that obviously a waterfall is not the same thing. If you've had rain, the sun's out, but if you'd had rain in the last 3 hours before the sun came out, that will be a totally different waterfall to if it's been dry for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You get different water levels and they look different. But you kind of know the depth of the various sections and things like that. What's great about collaborating with someone more regularly, you can't keep taking them back to the same place. So you're forced to start to scout with them. You're forced to experiment with them. But they're also, because they like working with you, they embrace that. They like that. They kind of get that, and they like the idea that you're going to somewhere new with them.
We're going to move on to the next image.
Yeah.
But as I do, I'm going to ask the question, because you talked about you don't get the model or the subject looking at camera, but distinctly this image is, isn't it?
Yeah.
This image is pretty much looking straight down the lens.
Yeah. And it has a totally different feel. I'm just gonna flip back to just saying that Pixie has amazing eyes. She's got really big eyes, and even though they're blue, she seems to be able to keep them open in conditions that most models would be squinting. This is in Almeria in Spain. It's actually right near to the coast. It's a volcanic plug. What you're seeing there is, like Giant's Causeway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I think is rubbish, by the way.
You think it's rubbish?
I think rubbish for a location. Most disappointed place I've ever been to in my life.
I've actually managed to. I had this absolutely wonderful girl write to me, and in 2005. I went over there, hired a car, got a hotel for 2 nighs, picked up a car from the airport. We got up there. It was before they built the visitor centre.
Yeah.
And the odds on, because it's August and it's Northern Ireland, and we were there at I think 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was overcast, and then the sun came through, and it was just, the sky was just pink, and I managed to shoot there, and we managed to get some images there, and I would love to go back there, but I know that the chances of getting better light, the chances of not seeing anyone probably nothing now.
Well, I'll leave you go. Anyway, back to this image.
Yeah.
You said it's a volcanic plug, yeah?
Yeah, it's a volcanic plug. It's a different type of rock to basalt, so the columns are not as uniform. You don't need to know that, I guess. But yeah, this is probably my favourite location outside of waterfalls in the Lakes District. I do it a lot. I do go there a lot. There's lots of different things there. There's rock pools. There's this is a morning. This is like a morning shoot. Again, I'm trying to get that juxtaposition. So, I'm trying to keep the model in proportion with the rock behind her. There's another shot that I'm trying to do there, and I keep failing because it's technically difficult. You end up with this thing where you get too much proportion. The legs are too long because you're shooting up. If you know what I'm talking about, that converging vertical thing. Yeah. But that shot in particular works really well. I've done similar shots to that, maybe five or six different occasions. There's
definitely a model type you're booking or you're
working. Yeah, there is. I think that that's kind of breaking down a bit. I do tend to like these very. Again, this is the same model. She's Serbian. she was getting 3 planes to be in Almeria. They've just recently put on the direct flight between Belgrade and Alicante, so maybe if I take her again, it'll be a lot easier. This is again in Almeria. It will be the same. It'll be the same trip. This is some limestone. It's clearly water worn. It's like waves in a rock. It's a really beautiful place. And when I discovered it, because I was again scouting, use Google Earth, and I saw it, and I went in February with my friend, and we had a look around, and actually find it and go, wow, you could see that, the waves in the rock. And it's just great to put a model in it. So that's probably as implied as I get, actually, in terms of nudity.
This image, and there was the image of the black model on the black sands of Lanzarote. These are 2 images that are very full in the frame, whereas we're seeing the majority of the images where we've got a small figure in landscape. It's quite a do you know what I mean? In
that respect, they're quite different, aren't they?
Very.
I think with again, when you look at the picture of Loire, I don't speak French, so it's very difficult for. I'll call her Laura. When you see the black model on the black beach, I'm actually using a telephoto. And I'm not duplicating it on film. And that's what gives it that tight look. It's also because I'm trying to minimize my depth of field. So obviously, if I get closer to her, right, while showing her full length, my depth of field is going to be smaller, isn't it? I'll get more of that look, where it goes to bokeh, in fact, completely, envelops the back of the picture. On this one, this will have been taken on, this will be duplicate of a 90mm shot on the RB. So this will be about 40mm. I'm keeping it tight because I want to have as much of that rock wave in the picture. I apologize about that. I want as much of the rock wave dominating the picture as I can. And if I was to pull back, you'd see that the actual location is quite limited in extent. I want that look of the infinite.
Okay. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. It does. It's just because those 2 images stood out, and our last image, is again back to small figure in landscape with it. And we saw that amazing one of the same model just 2 images ago, where she was very small on that kind of volcanic plug, and how it looked and things. Really. And I just thought we'd kind of ask that question.
This model here is.
Before we get to this image, I do apologise. Has social media for you been a help or a hindrance to share in your work?
Interestingly, I'm now on my 3rd Instagram, having been thrown off twice.
Okay.
Which I actually, and what I've said to my model friends when they went, "Oh no, you've been thrown off. Oh, that's terrible." And I say to them, "Well, I've never really got a model from it, so it doesn't. All it does is it's quite handy to communicate with them, because when I have had links with people on Instagram, you can't, it's very difficult unless they are on the modeling site Purple Port. I don't really know who they are. I can't check their feedback. Their location isn't given. It's very difficult, and I also find that Instagram, because it's a place which is the broad sweep of people. I will call them civilians. there's, you know, whereas on Purple Port, it's photographers interacting with models. On Instagram, it's ordinary men interacting with models. And I think you just have a lot more status in a modeling site if you're good as a photographer. You know, they'll look at your work, and if they get it, they'll like it.
So do you think those civilians that you said, that
Yeah.
are they the ones that assume that all nude photography is inherently sexual?
I would say, God, I would say that for me, I'm not denying the sexuality in my images. I just think that my images are they kind of build up woman. They put woman on a pedestal. Literally, you can see that if you look at this image. She's like a kind of a priestess or even a goddess, right? But I wouldn't deny that my images are meant to be sensual. They are sensual. I wouldn't try to desexualize them in order to make them more so I can deny that there's sex going on. I just think it's more about, is it exploitative? And I would say that my stuff isn't. The sexuality is probably owned by the model, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Well, it's not about me today, but it's
Yeah,
about
okay.
the discussion, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
all right,
it's such
okay,
a
all right,
minefield.
okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just wouldn't deny that they're sensual, and I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with finding that woman beautiful, and that
No, I agree.
and that beauty, you know, to try and claim that it's purely, you know, it's purely non-sexual is, I would say that that's kind of an artifice. It's yeah.
Let's talk about this image quickly anyway, but I've got an observation for you, and I hope it won't offend you. But this reminds me of a 1980s, 70s Patrick Litchfield glamour shot on a calendar for Pirelli. Do you you're of an age group that you remember what
I get it, and that's because basically, you know, the model, who's Ukrainian, I mean, she's a British citizen, but she's, you know, born in Ukraine. She's accessorized, and I normally will try and avoid. I would normally try and stop them accessorizing, and they'll go, "Oh, but it lifts the image." I go, "No, it doesn't. What it does is it changes the nature of the image." So you can see she's wearing an armband, you know, a piece of jewelry on her upper arm, and that's what's going on there, and that's why is the accessorization of the image is what's, in inverted commas, undermined its ethos. But I'm not going to.
You know what I meant with that, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I do. But I can tell you where it's coming from. If you take that armband away, it changes the entire nature of it. Definitely. I mean, yeah. Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. So let's talk about the image, because I haven't given you time to talk about the image. I do apologize. I love the color in this. I mean, the color palette is just magnificent, isn't it? You know.
I mean, I'll tell you about the location. I was driving around. You can tell it's either early morning or late evening. It is late evening. Yeah. I know when the sun sets there roughly, and we turn up, and there'll be a point where the sun sets behind a hill. And I always find in these locations that the best light is the last light. The last light that location will give you is usually the best light. So the color temperature is cascading down. You know, the shadows are looking bluer and bluer as that continues, and light's getting softer. And I was very lucky to find this. And I've tried, I've tried looking for other places that are similar to this, and as yet I have yet to find them. I think when I go to Spain, it's if I come away with one new location on a trip, I'll be really happy with that, because your bank of locations is just building and building. If you keep returning to the same place. But yeah, no, it's quite an amazing. It's quite an amazing place. I do shots with it. You can see there's a second repeat of that formation above her, and it's possible to put a model on there as well. But it's a great place.
As far as pose is concerned, obviously, are you very strict with how you want her to look, or are you allowing the model to do their thing, or what's your working process?
I mean, this model, I won't call her by a name, because she now calls herself Infinity, but she is just amazing. She's just full time. Her physique is incredible. You can more or less, she knows how she looks. She's got so much feedback from being shot and then seeing the images, that she knows what she's presenting by and large. A lot of the girls that I work with are not like that. You have to direct them, or what they'll do is they'll be watching you. If you've got a good rapport, they'll be watching you, and they'll look for signals off of you, how to change, how to move. If you've got a new model and she's relatively inexperienced, you are going to have to go front leg. Can you straighten that? Rock your knee out. And I've got all these instructions, and I teach them what each of them mean. And then they'll have to follow it. So and to a certain extent, it's great when you're working with someone like this, because she'd only just started modeling when she did her first 3-day shoot with me. So she's kind of, I've been there from the beginning of her journey, and she gets what I want. She understands what I want. The Serbian girl that we saw in the limestone waves and on the volcanic plug,
yeah.
She knows what I want, and she'll go, well, I'll just do Rob Ronaldson style now. And she'll do other things for other people. She learns different styles because she's like a jobbing professional. She's always touring. She does lots of shoots in Israel, and lots of shoots in Germany, coming out of Belgrade. So she will know what I want, and she'll do it. And then she'll say, well, can I try something else? I'll go, yeah, of course, go for it. So it'll vary. It'll be dependent on their experience, how much experience they've had with me.
Very good.
If that makes sense, yeah.
Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure of you sharing 8 of your images with us. Thank you so much. And for your first webinar, you've done very well.
Well, thank you.
If you want to see some more of Rob's work, head over to his Purple Port site. You can see him as Rob Ronaldson, as you can see.
Yeah, you will have to go up to the top corner and click the not safe for work. You can also click show adult as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that if you're expecting to see, I always blur. There's reasons why I blur. Let's say I blur south of the border, and that's because my models need to feel that the images I give them, they can sell them on OnlyFans, and new models don't get scared off by the fact that I'm showing stuff. Cool. So you won't get the full adult, but it's worth clicking adult.
I was on about more the style of images that we
that's what I meant, because what they'll do is they'll say, well, even though I blurred it, it's an adult shot because of the pose, and yet you can't see anything, if that makes sense.
Same on YouTube.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Rob, thank you so much, and fingers crossed we'll grab you back again to talk about your analog film images and the black and white kind of stuff and things. I think everybody would love to.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been a bit. Yeah, it's it was. I've enjoyed it. But you start, you can't allow yourself to question what you're saying. just have to say it, you know.
Rob, thank you so
Thank you
much,
very much.
and
Thank you, Mark.
we'll see you all again.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah. Okay.
Thanks for joining us on another Talk Photography, and remember, you can catch up more of our Talk Photography sessions on the Photographer Academy, as well as if you want the censored versions, you can actually go onto the YouTube channel and actually see them, where we drop those each month as well. Thanks for joining us.